In a game that is as technically dense and nuanced as mixed martial arts, the unavoidable GOAT conversation is one that is perhaps more difficult to nail down than in any other sport. Everyone has their own criteria for greatness, but for this video, we've decided to break down each of the UFC's 8 male divisions and give you our own take on the one man who has stood above all others as the divisional GOAT. So, let's get into it. Flyweight. Demetrius Johnson. The flyweight division has gone from strength to strength in recent years as the general public slowly started to come around to its incredible depth of technique and athleticism. And while newer stars like Davison Figueiredo and Henry Cejudo have certainly played their part in making the 125-pounder stand out, we couldn't look past the longtime king Demetrius Johnson for this honor. As technical a fighter as the sport has ever known, Johnson's speed, well-roundedness, and uncoachable fight IQ helped him to break the UFC record for consecutive title defenses with 11. Standing as the perfect mix of tactical genius and physical capability, the aptly named Mighty Mouse can best you on the feet, destroy you in the clinch, and find his way to any of his wide range of submissions on the mat. In his wide and dominant resume, standouts include his stunning first-round destruction of Henry Cejudo at UFC 197, his submission of Kyoji Horiguchi at 4 minutes 59 seconds of the final round, and, of course, the suplex to armbar he pulled off against Ray Borg. A master of his craft and a fighter who brought us to a level of mixed martial arts excellency that was uniquely his own. Bantamweight. Dominic Cruz. The 135-pound division is next, and with that came one of the tougher decisions we were forced to make for this video. Do we side with the longevity and dynamism of Renan Barão, or the innovative and deadly skill set of the man who dethroned him in TJ Dillashaw? Well, for our money, despite the competitiveness of this category, it's hard to look past the two-time bantamweight champion Dominic Cruz. Those who missed his prime years as an active champion might be surprised to see his name over Dillashaw's, but make no mistake, the 135-pound division has been defined by Dominic Cruz. Cruz's intricate footwork system has seen him carve out perhaps the most instantly recognizable style in MMA history, a complex mix of feints, pivots, and defensive-minded brilliance designed to frustrate and confuse. That style was, indeed, eventually cracked by Cody Garbrandt at UFC 207. But one look at Cruz's victories over Demetrius Johnson, Uriah Faber, Joseph Benavidez, and TJ Dillashaw will be enough to make a strong argument for his merits as the best bantamweight ever to do it. Whether he can find the type of form and consistency to regain his title again is anyone's guess, but in our eyes, Dominic Cruz is the single greatest 135-pound fighter to ever do it. Featherweight. Jose Aldo. The featherweight division has managed to serve up an endless stream of great fighters since its earliest days in the MMA top flight. From the striking wizardry of guys like Max Holloway and Conor McGregor to well-rounded customers such as Alexander Volkanovski and Dustin Poirier, 145 pounds has been a hotbed for major talents for years, and it does not look like it's slowing down one bit. But despite these unquestionably excellent talents, we can't look past Jose Aldo for our GOAT pick. Undefeated for a decade, and with a skill set as watertight as any fighter in the history of the sport, Aldo combined in equal measures raw, destructive Muay Thai mastery with a cerebral tactical awareness, shifting between the two to suit his needs. Jose Aldo can do it all. He's got some of the finest boxing we've ever seen inside the octagon, takedown defense that is cracked only by the very best of the best, and though he doesn't throw them half as much as he used to, his leg-kicking prowess is the stuff of legend. Just ask Uriah Faber. Sure, he's got some stiff competition in the GOAT conversation, but Aldo has done more than enough over the course of the last 12 years to not only make him the greatest featherweight to ever do it, but one of the best of all time, period. Lightweight. Habib Nurmagomedov. If you asked 100 fans for their opinion on the single best division in the sport of MMA, chances are that one division would rule by some distance. Lightweight, and in particular this modern era, has produced perhaps the highest level of mixed martial arts of all weight classes, from the unmissable 12-fight win streak of Tony Ferguson to the show-stopping highlight reel himself, Justin Gaethje. 155 pounds has been the money division for the UFC in recent times. and with good reason. And while earlier greats like BJ Penn and Eddie Alvarez deserve to be mentioned along with these newer talents, Habib Nurmagomedov is the single greatest 155-pound fighter to ever lace up the gloves. To achieve that level of technical brilliance in the gym is one thing, but the manner in which the Eagle has been able to reach his 29-0 record leaves him as an easy pick for this honor. Possessing the type of takedown game and top control that is quite literally terrifying to behold, Habib's ability to mentally break his opponents mid-fight sets him apart from all other fighters of this era, lightweight or otherwise. Guys like Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, and Conor McGregor, undeniably great fighters who are renowned for their mental toughness. When they stepped in there against this Dagestani destroyer, Nurmagomedov made the levels that exist in this game very apparent from the get-go. The history books will no doubt be kind to Habib's legacy long after he is gone for good. Welterweight, Georges St. Pierre. It is incredibly difficult to be a welterweight champion sitting at the foot of the mountain that has been climbed by Georges St. Pierre. Guys like Kamaru Usman and Tyron Woodley have achieved excellent 170-pound title runs in their own right. But even with their greatness established, both fall some way short of what GSP did in his prime. St. Pierre was an athlete that had no equal in that division, a beautifully technical striker with an unteachable desire to learn. Physically, he possessed the type of explosive ability that saw him quickly adapting his game to out-wrestle some of the finest wrestlers the Octagon has ever known. Even after he initially stopped his hype train in emphatic fashion, the great Matt Hughes eventually could not keep up with St. Pierre's rapid progression, causing George little issue in their second and third fights. It truly is tough to put St. Pierre's prowess into words, but over the course of his 7 years within the UFC's welterweight division, GSP managed to beat all of the best fighters of 3 different eras, going from young upstart to living legend, with results that just became more and more dominant. Indeed, he left the UFC on something of an odd note after a questionable decision victory over Johnny Hendricks. But make no mistake, this man is MMA royalty and an easy pick among the welterweight crop. Middleweight, Anderson Silva. Like flyweight and welterweight before it, deciding on a middleweight GOAT was just about as easy as one could ever hope. Sure, we're watching greatness in motion as Israel Adesanya continues to build his legacy as one of the most technically astute strikers we have ever seen. But there is no argument to be made for anyone other than Anderson Silva as the king of the middleweights. His resume alone would be enough to see him walk away with this great honor. But when you actually take a moment to remember just how magical the Spider was in his prime, it makes you realize that he was nothing short of a gift from the MMA gods. His last-ditch triangle choke of Chael Sonnen, his front kick of Vitor Belfort, making Forrest Griffin punch air. These are moments that are engraved so deeply into our experience of MMA over the years that to simply call them iconic would be underselling them. Through 16 consecutive victories in the UFC, Anderson Silva took the sport to a level of artistry that had simply not existed beforehand. Say what you want about what followed from there, but no fighter in middleweight history has come close to replicating Silva's mix of longevity, dominance, and that aura he carried with him to the octagon every time he made the walk. Light heavyweight, Jon Jones. If this was an overall GOAT conversation, we'd be hard-pressed to pick against the longtime light heavyweight great Jon Jones in our assessment of MMA's short history. Sure, there are maybe 2 or 3 other fighters you can offer up as alternatives, but Jon Jones's meteoric rise to the top of the sport was unlike anything we had ever seen before. As this unproven 21-year-old debuted in the UFC, buzz started to build about this unmistakably modern talent. A new breed of fighter, the perfect athletic specimen. He's diverse in his offense on the feet. He throws kicks, knees, elbows, and punches indiscriminately. And given his background in Greco-Roman wrestling, he has some of the most impressive takedowns of any fighter ever to do it. And sure, there have been other greats in the 205 discussion, Daniel Cormier, Tito Ortiz, Chuck Liddell, and so on. But Jones ascended to a category that is exclusive to only the very best of the best. And for over a decade, Jones has only continued to prove himself to be a special talent. Whether he can replicate his successes in the treacherous waters of the heavyweight division is anyone's guess. But if you aren't picking Jon Jones as your 205 GOAT, we're afraid you need a history lesson. Heavyweight, Stipe Miocic. And finally, we get to the big hitters, the heavyweight division. As the most inherently risky division due to the massive punching power on display, finding a long-term heavyweight king within the UFC has been very, very difficult. And while Fedor Emelianenko deserves to be mentioned due to his legendary unbeaten streak within Pride and other organizations, due to the strength of schedule and technical ability, we can't look past Stipe Miocic. We love Cain Velasquez as much as any of you, but after his injury-riddled UFC run winded down, it was always going to take something truly significant to pick up and move the division along. Stipe Miocic made his way to the top on the back of perfect fundamentals, true grit, and a deep knowledge of boxing mechanics. Indeed, he has other skills, but Stipe's greatness boils down to the simple things. He understands what a fight is at its very core, and whether he's nullifying the brutally powerful Francis Ngannou over 5 rounds or figuring out Daniel Cormier over the course of the trilogy, his mettle and his faith in his adaptability have seen him carve out a legacy in a division that is designed for short reigns. A true great who may well drag out his legacy even further before all is said and done. And that'll just about do it for this list. But who are your own divisional GOATs within MMA? If you think you can do better than our picks, do be sure to let us know in the comments below.